Welcome back, Lisa Rinna. I've missed you so much since your family packed their bags, loaded them in your mouth, and skipped town.
And does it match the blood you found inside Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Yes, it's all from the same individual.
Then you mean all this time we could have been friends?
Judges your score.
Tell us what you don't like about yourself.
I'd like to go to Dreamland.
I'll take you there.
Who are you?
I'm Constance Langdon, and this is my fucking house.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ryan Murphy Project, a podcast where we take an in-depth look at the life and career of one of TV's most prolific and controversial showrunners. I'm Eric.
And I am Andrew. Hey,
Andrew.
Eric.
It's been so long.
I haven't seen you since November.
I mean, we've seen each other. We've talked. It's not like we don't talk, but it's been December, January. It's been almost like 3 months since we actually recorded an episode. We did release the ones that we had recorded this past month in January, and now we're in February. And hopefully we can continue this ball going. It's just easy getting burned out on editing. We've talked about it before. We're trying. We're working through it.
Yeah.
We're thriving.
We're watching things, but
yeah.
I mean, a lot happened within those, cause from November till now, like so much has happened.
Think about what has happened.
Too.
I mean, that was something we talked about too. Like, aside from being burned out about watching it, we just haven't also been recording as much because every day is a new historical event in our country, and it's tiring. It's just tiring. We're tired, you know? And I just, some days, you know, when racists storm the United States Capitol, you don't want to record about Glee, you know?
No.
There is no Glee to be had.
No, it's a little bit different. But you know what? I just want to thank everyone for sticking through it. Because I got DMs and the Ryan Murphy page got DMs like, where are you guys? You know?
Yeah.
And there's no like solid answer, and it might happen again, might not. But yeah, we're recommitting and rebranding maybe too, the Ryan Murphy podcast, you know, slight reboot.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't foresee us ever stopping. We should say that. You know, if we take a break,
either.
Don't think that we're not coming back, because we will, because we have a lot of fun doing this. I think you enjoy it. I think we're good at this. Like, we have a great, obviously, you know, we're best friends, so there's a connection there. But I think the way we do this show is also, it works out really well. So I'm proud of the show. I'm proud of us. And I think we will always keep going, even if, you know, maybe we take a few weeks off here and there. But we're trying.
Do a better job at maybe announcing it for our people. If and when that does happen again, being like, hey, we're just taking a mental health break.
Yeah.
Kind of. Let's hope not. Let's hope that we don't have any major distresses in the same way 2020 was.
I mean,
I just saw a tweet. It's like, I can't wait to have a lot of sex in 2023, and I was like, yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I get it.
This is actually episode 25.
Oh, okay.
So we're trucking along here.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we used to say we're gonna do 2 a week?
Oh God. Can you imagine
how ambitious we were in July?
Well, we were in like a still full real mental lockdown at that point.
Yeah, we're like, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, all hell broke loose. But a lot has happened. A lot of you know, big names in television and film have passed away since we last recorded.
Yeah, right.
We got a vaccine. People are getting vaccinated. Joe Biden is president. He was sworn in. There was the insurrection. The stock market went crazy.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was banned from social media.
What a great day. We have our first female Asian and black vice president.
Sure.
Or is it Pacific Asian, however that's designated. So I think, you know, that's a huge deal. What else happened?
You know,
gays
when
over COVID happened.
Oh, I didn't even look into that, because I was just like, this is just like Aaron Schock fucking pool boys. So I was like, I don't have time to look.
They're already
into
canceled
to
me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny about Kamala is she's my senator, or she was my senator. So I voted for her in 2016, and I remember me and my roommate were like doing our ballots together, and I was like, I bet she's gonna be president one day. We said that to each other. I was like, I bet she's gonna be president one day.
And here we go.
4 years later, she's already vice president.
One step away. Joe is old.
Yeah, exactly. And basically what I'm saying is I like to take credit for Kamala Harris's successes because of my one vote in 2016.
I take credit for making Gays Over COVID a thing because I was following it for a long time, and then I posted it on my story, and now they have over 100,000 followers. And I knew it before the other people, so I personally take credit for it.
Well, wait, what? I thought Gays Over COVID was the bad thing.
What do you mean?
Like, I thought they got canceled because they were going vacationing and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I was following Gays Over COVID when I had 18,000 followers, right?
But aren't Gays Over COVID an enemy of the virus? Like
Gays Over COVID calls out the quote unquote influencers that are traveling and are going to parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, I didn't look into it at all.
No,
I thought
really
Gays
didn't.
Over COVID were gays who were like over COVID and like posting pictures, but they're the TMZ of the Gays Over COVID.
Yeah, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and Gays Over COVID is just kind of like what sort of reporting is right now to me.
Yeah.
What is that one like sort of gossipy Instagram? Du Moi? You ever heard of that?
I do not know.
I could talk about this for hours, but let's not.
Okay. It's Super Bowl Sunday we're recording this on. And I love how we were like, you know what? Fuck the Super Bowl. Let's talk Sarah Paulson. And that really says a lot about who we are, I feel like.
Yeah, come on. I don't care. There's no diva performing at the Super Bowl right now.
Excuse me. Jasmine Sullivan, a Philadelphia native, performed the national anthem, brought down the house. It was her and Eric Church. And we're in a state now. I've cried 4 times today.
Oh my God.
I cry so much over the past year. Just like the craziest thing. Anyway, so it was Eric Church, who's a white country singer, Jasmine Sullivan, who's one of the best voices in R&B, a black woman, and they sang together and they sang the national anthem, and they did it in like a country R&B mixed way. Okay. And it was like perfect for the moment, and it made me cry. It was really beautiful.
I love Jasmine Sullivan. I didn't listen to her new album yet, but Bust Your Windows is everything that I fantasize about. A lot.
I just saw it was funny because she's from Philly. I knew that, but I didn't know that. I guess one of her first big things was she sang "Home" from The Wiz at 11 at this show in like middle school, and like at 11 years old was like killing it. Obviously still had it was the start of her amazing voice. So I watched the clip for the first time today, and they have this stamp from like the company that came in and recorded for the school, I guess, and it was the same company that recorded our 8th grade graduation video.
There's a lot of questions there.
So am I taking credit for Jasmine Sullivan's performance at the Super Bowl?
Okay, yes, let's just do it. Let's just continue taking credit.
Not a white man taking credit for 2 black women's accomplishments in this episode.
No. Not in the first 10 minutes of this podcast.
So it's Super Bowl Sunday. We're gay. We're going to talk about Sarah Paulson instead. We're very excited. Yeah. This is another new pilot we're doing.
Yeah.
Which is, it's been a few months since we did a pilot.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, it has been a minute. It's very pilot-y, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And, we did a lot of American Horror Story and Glee in the back end. And then we just watched the last episode, episode 24 before this, which was the full watch-along of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was super funny. We predicted a lot of things that happened, which I think was pretty funny. And it was a good listen. So if you haven't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and you plan to watch Ratched and you haven't started or not yet, I think you should watch it and then watch along with us.
Yeah. So
you can laugh and have fun, and it's not, because it could be a pretty weighty movie, I feel like. So
it really was.
Have us in the background.
I'm glad that we did that because, to preface, you've never seen Ratched.
Yeah.
And then I've seen a handful of episodes and then I just stopped. So to watch a handful, watch the movie, and then to go back to the pilot, I was like, oh, okay, this is completely different than what I think.
Yeah. I'm very glad we watched the movie beforehand. Even though there's not, in the first episode at least, there's not too much that's like we need to call upon because, again, she wasn't in that movie a lot.
No.
What was her total screen time? Like 15 minutes?
No, yeah.
20 minutes maybe? So it's not like they had a lot of source material from the movie, at least, maybe from the book. But from the movie, there wasn't a lot of source material to pull from. So even looking at, like, the movie, I feel like we could have, at least for this first season maybe, not watched the movie. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I know what you mean.
Because at the same time, and we'll get into it more, she's not very... I don't see any really big similarities between the two right now.
No, me either. I think we kind of theorized before that closer, like maybe if this goes to like a third season, it'll get closer to the movie, right? Is that what we said
for
before?
Sure.
And I'm like, I could see that. That would be a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah, I'd imagine the last season will be before or during the movie. Like right before or during the movie. You know what I mean?
It could be like they even introduce the Jack Nicholson character too.
That's what they said. I think that's what he said is like when they introduce the Jack Nicholson character, that'll be the end of this towards the end of the series at least.
It kind of reminds me of have you ever seen Hannibal? Did you ever watch that? It was an NBC show.
My roommate was watching it. I watched it a little bit.
It was really good. And then as it inched towards like its third and final season, it started introducing like more characters, and then they were going to introduce Clarice, but then it got canceled. So this show kind of feels a lot like that too. Like not directly a prequel, like it's its own thing.
CBS just started a new show called Clarice.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw
the prequel
that.
to her story.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna watch that one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into Ratched, starring Sarah Paulson. I have the wiki up, so I'm just gonna read a few things here that I have highlighted that I think is pertinent to the conversation before we jump in and break down the pilot episode. Okay. Ratched is an American psychological thriller. Streaming television series created by Evan Romansky. I think this was Evan's first show. I think he was like another person like why is his name escaping me from Pose? What's his name?
Who from Pose?
Pose.
Steven Canals?
Oh yeah. Steven Canals, yes, exactly. Canals, yeah. Same kind of idea, like Ryan discovered them. So the series was created by Evan, developed by Ryan, and starring Sarah Paulson in the title role. The series, a prequel to Saul Zant's 1975 One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest film, based on Ken Kesey's 1962 novel of the same name, depicts the life of Mildred Ratched prior to events portrayed in the film, albeit in a different state, California, as opposed to the film's Oregon. Ratched received a 2-season order from Netflix, and the first season, which we're going to go over, premiered on Netflix on September 18th, 2020.
Mm-hmm. The year of our Lord and Savior.
Yeah. I do want to say that the Golden Globe nominations just came out.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Probably also something we can discuss here. But Ratched was nominated for Best Drama Series, Best Actress in a Drama Series, Sarah Paulson, and Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, Cynthia Nixon.
Oh, I didn't know about Cynthia. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
And in its first week of release, Ratched was ranked number 1 in the Nielsen ratings, who announced that the show had been viewed for a total of 972 million minutes. According to Netflix, the series was viewed by 48 million people in its first 4 weeks. It's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being number 1 on Netflix for a long time.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense.
Until Bridgerton came along. Have you watched?
Well, before that, The Queen's Gambit.
Oh my God, Emily in Paris.
Other things.
Other Netflix shows about period pieces.
Period white girl pieces.
Yeah. White girl period pieces.
Everybody loves it. Everyone loves it.
So let's get into the pilot, shall we?
All right.
As we mentioned, the first season's 8 episodes, by the way. And Ryan Murphy directed the first 2 episodes. Evan wrote the first episode.
Okay. So, yeah, we open in 1947, and it's raining, and we're going into a church service, like a Catholic church. Mm-hmm. There's some prayers, and then afterwards, the main pastor, I don't think we ever really get his name. the one that we're kind of following through the opening.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's just call him the main pastor.
Sure.
He walks out after the service, and someone is watching him in the shadows, in the rain, smoking a cig.
Yeah. Love that shot. Love it. I got to say, throughout, we'll get into it, the color correction, the colors, the direction overall, the aesthetic, the set, the design, the production design, beautiful.
So good.
All the way through.
And then with the music, too, the music really does so much, like this. The strings in the background.
Yeah,
so
that was something I wrote down too to talk about later, but we can talk about it now real quick. We talked about how Feud and Hollywood had very similar music.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when we saw the trailer for Ratched, we were like, I hope that they don't pull a trifecta and really use basically the same music for the same kind of similar setting and time period. And throughout the pilot, I was trying to take note of it, and I didn't hear very many similarities.
No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of like visual cues. Like it's kind of like an amalgamation of everything that Ryan really loves. It's like old Hollywood kind of mixed with a period piece, kind of scary. We're talking about like quote unquote mental asylum things. So I can see that. And
that was the other thing too, is Asylum was very dark. Like the interior of Briarcliff was very dark. Mm-hmm. This is a hugely bright set for this this thriller of an insane asylum, which I think is interesting. But then when at the end, when you get to the other cell of the guy in the basement, it's darker. It's warmer. It's so it's some interesting choices that I agree with throughout.
So then we cut to the pastor's house, or like, is there a name for a house that all the pastors live in?
I was trying to think of it when I wrote it down, but literally when you just said it, I can't. I think it's a convent, but I don't know if that's just nuns.
Yeah,
a rectory.
Yeah. So it's still raining, and the main pastor is going to his house, and then we see all the other sort of pastors that are there having dinner. We are introduced to one that's visiting from Nigeria, and then they say that they're going out for the night to go to the movies. Do you remember which movie? I don't remember.
Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, is that a Christmas one?
It is.
That's the Christmas one? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then they all leave, and then the pastor immediately goes to his room, pulls out Vaseline and a bra catalog, and says, "Hello, ladies."
Yeah. So this priest wanted to not go to the movie. Instead, he wanted to stay home and jerk off, which been there, bitch.
I mean, like,
been there.
I mean, my
still
life.
Still there. Want to go there.
Not going to the movies.
I also want to say, though, that this scene also introduced Hunter Parrish. Now.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Hunter Parrish?
I am familiar with him.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Hunter Parrish, so sexy. One of my big crushes.
He would be totally your type, even though he's a blonde.
Absolutely. So what? Love it. Because you know why? The main thing with him, he's a Broadway singer.
Oh, I had no idea. Interesting.
Yeah. And then also, of course, he was in Weeds. That was like his first big role, but he was on Broadway before Weeds. I think.
I just knew him from Weeds.
Yeah, and you know how Weeds started like. Every episode, they started changing who was singing the theme song. Yeah, he did it one episode too. So, have you ever heard? Should I play the one song for you?
Sure. Yeah, I loved Weeds. The beach. Did you watch it all the way through? Because I did.
I did, because I know that people said it fell off, and it did. But I did follow all the way through just because I was one of the first shows I ever binged.
Same.
And I was like, at that point when we binge shows, we were like, just stick through it. Now we're like, nope, now we down episode 4.
Yeah. Now we definitely don't have to. So Weeds. There were some things in there that like, because it was such a formative time for me, it like definitely changed my life. I remember the beach season 4. The beach season, for whatever reason, like really.
Yeah, when they went down to San Diego.
Yeah, like really put some things into place for me. And then I also wanted to deal drugs, and then I did, and then I was horrible at it. I think, and then you met me right after that. I was still kind of doing it, yeah.
Here's the song. I'll play it for the audience too, but I just love this song. It's from Godspell. And he sings it, and it's really good. So we'll just play a quick sample of Hunter Parrish so you can see his abilities. Maybe he'll sing this season.
When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can give up better and battered, or you can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels, but finally a city of men.
So it's like, it's like a little sappy one, but it's good. This was from 2011's Godspell, so I think that's probably after Weeds.
Yeah, it seems after, I think. Or maybe even
Weeds
during.
It was during, yeah. Weeds was 2005 to 2012, but I don't think Hunter was on the last little bit. So that's our little Hunter Parrish break. I did want to have one because since Weeds, I haven't really seen him in anything, and I love him, and I'm kind of obsessed.
Either, really.
And that's like the only song I listen to from Godspell. So they go to the movies, they come back. Hunter goes to clean up the plate that the other priest left that was staying behind, and we notice. Oh wait, no, we didn't get to that part yet.
Hold on, yeah.
I skipped a whole bunch.
Let me go back. Okay, so the priest is jerking off, and then outside we see the same guy kind of watching him, still in the rain, still smoking a cig. So as he's going, doing his thing, the doorbell rings, and then he goes downstairs in his really fancy golden robe.
Love that robe, gotta say.
Yeah, I know, right?
Love all the robes in this episode.
Like, is this there are a lot of great. There's a lot of robe work in this episode.
Throughout the whole episode, there's so much robe. I love every robe I see.
So before we see him, the guy's like, hey, my car broke down. Can I please use your phone? And the pastor's like, yeah, of course. And then, lo and behold, it's Finn Whitrock. He's the guy that's been watching the pastor the whole time. And he is playing Edmund Tollison. I looked it up.
Yes.
As they're going to the phone, Edmund notices the food on the table. The pastor's like, hey, you can have that food. I didn't eat it. And he's like, I'll eat it later. And he says it in this way, serving all the chin that he has.
Yeah,
it kind of makes you think, like, later.
Serving all the chisel. Well, that thing is the priest thinks he's looking at the plate, but really he's looking at the knife.
Oh, okay. I thought he actually was looking at the food. I'm like, oh, yeah.
No. He's looking at the knife because that's the knife he uses to kill them later. Because then it cuts and then the priests come back from the movie, and Hunter goes to the dining room and notices that the priest's plate was still there, the one that stayed behind, which is what I was getting at. And we notice that the knife isn't there.
I see.
Yeah.
I did write in my notes that Hunter is playing Father Andrews, by the way.
Yes. Which I would assume he comes back.
He does. Okay, so after he cleans the food off the table, everyone's going to bed. Everyone's giving their kisses. Good night, good night.
Yeah, there's just a scene where they're making out in the hallway.
It's like so random. So like people are praying before bed, ironing. The Nigerian priest that was visiting goes to the bathroom, right, to brush his teeth, but then he hears like some mysterious dripping, and then of course we're like, oh, well, what's in the tub? He goes, pulls the curtain back, finds the dead pastor from the opening scene, and then but behind him is Edmund with chin,
with knife, with blood. And this is probably one of the most gruesome things I think in any Ryan Murphy show is the shot where he attacks the Nigerian priest and he smashes his face into the toilet, and you just see his face just like mold and wrap around the toilet and cave in.
And those 1947 toilets were pure porcelain.
Pure porcelain.
Even just the lid is pure porcelain.
And exactly.
Thick as fuck.
And and that shit went through his head pretty easily. So 2 priests down, 3 to go.
Yep.
other two priests, because the Monsignor, who's the head priest, who we meet also, he's in his room. And then there's two other priests that share a room, Hunter and this other priest, who I was like, oh, are they going to kiss? But they didn't. Right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Every Ryan Murphy show, we see two guys in the scene. We're like, are they going to kiss?
Or are they just ironing?
That's a new segment. Are they going to kiss or are they just ironing?
They run over to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And then they see it, and then Edmund is still there, and then one of the priests tries to run away, not Hunter Parrish, falls, and then Edmund starts stabbing him.
Well, and this is another thing I noticed too. So Hunter and the other priest go in and catch what's going on, but Hunter never entered the room. No. If you look in the background, he's like hiding behind the door. So we could tell, from things that transpire next, is Hunter's a little bitch. So the other little coward bitch. So this other priest went in further, and Edmund saw him, and then Edmund attacked him and just started stabbing him. Hunter runs to his room, past the Monsignor, who heard the commotion. The Monsignor comes out, Edmund comes out, and then Edmund confronts the Monsignor, and we learn that the Monsignor is Edmund's father.
Yeah.
And his mother is a nurse or a nun that used to work with the Monsignor, and apparently they had like some sort of consensual relationship, but then maybe she got pregnant and they put her in a whorehouse or something.
Yeah, yep.
So we get to this whole backstory of Edmund, and how he was put up for adoption and he was abandoned by his parents, and his father basically ruined his mother's life.
Died of a heroin overdose, and so he's there for revenge. And then the Monsignor is also wearing a really nice green robe.
His robe was my favorite.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. Favorite robe right there.
Robe point.
I know. So, and then the Monsignor's like, I'm a sinner, don't hurt me. And then he says that he's going to suffer for his sins. And then we hear some slashing, cutting, stabbing sounds as we fade away to this really beautiful shot of like a very turquoise ocean hitting like an orange beach.
We also see in that scene while he's being stabbed is Hunter Parrish's character is under the bed in the room hiding from everything.
Yeah, he's hiding.
So
and
again, he's hiding.
All of it.
Yeah, so he's the only priest that stays alive this night. But yeah, then we cut to that beautiful. This was like the shot. I was like, oh, these colors are going to be amazing.
I know. I'm just like that. Why is it orange on the beach? Tell me. So then the music starts swelling, and then we get a little title card that says 6 months later. Soon after that, we see a couple, just like cute 1947, maybe 48, kissing at a gas station. And then we get our first real introduction to Sarah Paulson playing Mildred Ratched, who's getting her gas pumped and scorning and looking at this couple kissing.
Yeah. So she's judging the couple. She judges the gas station attendant. She gives sass to him, and clearly they're establishing that she doesn't hold back her words. She's very free and knows what she wants and speaks her mind, which is great. She's a powerful woman is what they're portraying in here. And we find out that Finn's character was shipped to Lucia, which is a part of California. So he's going to go to this mental hospital in Lucia. Now, we should say this mental hospital, obviously, I guess we did kind of say it already, isn't the same as the one in One Flew. So clearly she doesn't stay at this one for long. So we know that Finn was caught and he's being shipped to this mental hospital for evaluation. And that's also where Nurse Ratched is headed. And she gets to a motel. She checks in. There's a funny, hotel manager who's very sassy.
Yeah, that's Amanda Plummer. She's playing Louise. And I know Amanda Plummer from that Quentin Tarantino movie, and in The Diner. Do you watch? I forget if you're a Quentin Tarantino
Pulp
fan.
Fiction?
Yeah. That's the only reason why I really know her. And she seems like she probably is on some sort of Broadway with that kookiness. So Sarah gets to this motel, and there's a bunch of journalists there who are there to report on the murder of these priests and how this guy is being transferred to this mental hospital. And we see Nurse Ratched is there, and Lucia asks, or what's her name? Louise.
Louise asks her what she's doing here. She says she's a nurse, not a journalist. And she goes into her room and tells her don't use the ice machine too much. Apparently, ice was expensive in 1947.
You know where it was? Those fridges. And then while they're we kind of get a glimpse at this like hotel. Is it motel? It's like, I guess it was motel.
Motel, yeah.
And it's like on
those
the
places,
side
those,
of this
those little
cliff.
huts. Yeah, it's beautiful. Those little huts are actually on Airbnb.
Oh yeah, it looks like
We should go.
It should be on Airbnb.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Fuck it.
We should go when you come back out here.
And then
that would be perfect. That'd be so good.
Let's do it.
We should go.
I'm so
we should
totally
record
down.
the Ratched finale from one of those Airbnbs.
We like in the hotel. She also notices like a smoking sort of journalisty looking guy played by Corey Stoll.
Yeah.
His name is Charles Wainwright in the show. I looked it up.
I wrote Corey Stoll daddy ? Because I wanted to ask you if you think he's a daddy.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a daddy, but he's a daddy that like I'm not into.
Okay, I was curious. Corey Stoll is in one of my favorite TV shows of all time, House of Cards.
Yeah,
so I do
feel
have
like people wanted him to be a thing, and then he just like was never a thing.
He was in like he rides a fine line between leading man and supporting character. I don't think he's found a role that puts him like, that defines his career one way or the other.
Sure.
I think he's just gonna kind of bounce back and forth between that kind of character type. But he's a great actor, so I'm excited to see him in this.
Yeah. So she starts unpacking, and she starts doing her like methodical things, like washing her face, and we get kind of a flashback of how she gets all her amazing clothes, and it looks like she's stealing them. So after she gets ready, she starts pulling up, and we get a really cool. I guess it's here. Yeah, that we get a really cool shot of her driving into the hospital.
Yeah,
it's like it's
so
like
you could see.
It's like very the opening of The Shining to me, mixed with like something else.
Yeah, with like the wide, vast shot of the grounds and stuff. Yeah. But before this is an interesting thing. Talking about the clothes and stuff like that. She's clearly mimicking what a woman in the 40s is supposed to be. She's mimicking how she should dress, how she should smile, how she should do all this stuff, because I think they're going to portray her as a psychopath who, I mean, obviously. Yeah. So she doesn't have the same interpersonal connections that normal people would have. So I think her looking at this magazine and trying to emulate that is a way for her to try and become normal, to seem that she's like a nice person when we know that she's not. So so she gets to the hospital because she has an interview for a nurse position at this hospital. We soon quickly find out that basically she forged this letter, kind of. Yeah. At least that's what I think. It's not said, but it's kind of clear that she forged this letter to get an interview at this hospital to become a nurse. And when she gets there, do we see a little flirting with one of the nurses?
Do you like her flirting with the nurses?
With one of the nurses flirting with her.
Oh, who?
I don't know. I feel like I picked it up. One of the blonde nurses and her were flirting with each other, but and then we get a weird intro of Charlie Carver's character.
Yeah, super weird.
Which like was so like he could have just been cut out of this entire episode.
Yeah. He's playing a character named Huck Finnegan. That's his name.
No, cancel.
Delete that one.
But then we meet Nurse Bucket, played by Judy Davis.
Yep.
How she didn't get nominated for a Golden Globe, I'll never know.
I know, because she really plays like this really funny character here.
Yeah, she's great. And I loved her. She was in Feud, obviously. Was she in something else too? Hollywood, maybe.
She was just in Feud and Ratched so far.
Okay. So Sarah meets Nurse Bucket, who is the head nurse at this hospital, played by Judy, and basically says she has a meeting with Dr. Hanover. She got a letter from him to interview for this job. And Nurse Bucket says, well, he's not here, and he won't be back till this afternoon. I think I like this scene, so maybe let's play this little interaction, because I think it's a good way to set their dynamic. And we need some, clip from this so we get a voice of the characters and stuff like that. So here it is.
Where did you get this? You must be the head nurse. Mildred Ratched.
I didn't ask what your name was. Where did you get the letter?
Why, it was sent to me.
That's where I'm confused.
Because there is no one in his office except for Dr. Hanover and myself. I didn't send that, and I can assure you that isn't Dr. Hanover's signature.
I have come quite a long way and would just like to speak with him.
Dr. Hanover is out of the office till later this afternoon. If you'd like to leave a number where
If you
you
don't
can
mind, I'd prefer to wait here.
He'll be gone sometime.
You just said he'd return in the afternoon.
It could be longer.
Well, then it could be shorter. By your own logic. I truly don't mind waiting. I have nowhere else to be.
Very well.
What were your sort of first impressions of Nurse Bucket?
I mean, I like her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued by her. I like that she's a strong female antagonist to our anti-hero.
Me too.
I am excited to see where she goes. I think, obviously, the thing is, it's tough with this series is because we know Nurse Ratched lives. We know she doesn't get her comeuppance. You know what I mean? So it's going to be hard to balance that. Like with The Sopranos or with Mad Men, you're like, ooh, what is... Maybe they'll get caught. Maybe they'll... They'll get some, whatever. With this, it's like, well, when she won't ever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how she is against Sarah's character. But so they meet, and basically she's trying to blow her off, but she agrees to let her stay and wait for Dr. Hanover. And then we cut to Dr. Hanover, who's waiting outside the governor of California's office to meet with him about funding for the hospital. So we see that's where he is.
The doctor is played by John Briones. I know I'm putting a Spanish accent on that. And then we last saw him in AHS Apocalypse.
Yes. He also played the dad in Versace.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I didn't like his character or whatever in Apocalypse, and I still don't really like his character
right?
here. Yeah, he was in like 2 episodes.
Yeah, I don't think I like him as an actor.
Yeah, I know.
Let's drag him. Let's drag him. I just don't feel. Feel him on screen. Like he's not it for me.
Like we cannot drag him. He's like one of the only people of color on this show. It's like
fair, but acting chops.
But either acting wise, I'm not sold on him. He has like this really really nervy energy, so it irritates me. But anyway, so he's nervous. It's waiting for the governor. He takes some pills. The governor's assistant comes out saying, "Hey, we need to reschedule." So
so he's clearly being blown off by the governor.
Yeah. So then after that, the next logical choice is to go to a bar. So then he starts drinking his stress away. And then guess who else is in that bar? Corey Stoll.
Oh, Daddy Stoll.
Daddy Stoll just kind of there. But then the governor comes, and he's with Cynthia Nixon, who's playing a character called Gwendolyn Briggs. And I guess they're also eating at this bar. They do both. They serve drinks for your stress, and you can eat with your assistant.
That's not his wife. That's what I was asking. I don't know if it's his wife or I assumed it was his assistant.
Well, because I felt like this episode introduced everyone. Like this pilot introduced everyone. So I was like, okay, so what is Cynthia Nixon's character? What is Hunter Parrish's character? So I just looked as I was watching, and it said that she is his basically campaign manager.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense
press secretary and campaign manager. But in the way that it's presented, it feels like it's his wife.
Yeah, they just don't do a good job of laying out who she is. I don't think they ever mention it.
Yeah, I feel like in the way that she even runs, she's like his equal, like a wife would be kind of whispering in the background, not a campaign manager. Anyways. So what's his name? Dr. Hanover goes right over to the governor. Is like, hey, we had some meetings that you canceled on. And basically, Cynthia Nixon's like, let him speak. And he tries to pitch the idea for funding for his hospital.
Yeah. And it doesn't go well, and he gets, shoot off again. And he leaves back to the hospital with some financial troubles for the hospital that he's hoping to fix, but did not get the job done today.
So we're back at the hospital, and then we see... So this is Nurse Dolly. She's the character. So
I feel like Nurse Dolly is flirting with Nurse Ratched.
Oh yeah, like she seems like a DL sexual creature, right?
Sure, yeah,
Because she's just like putting on makeup in this scene. Ratched is like, "Can I go to the
getting
restroom?"
Ratched all wet.
Oh my god! And she goes to the restroom.
Getting all whoppy.
Cool hallway, cool.
Yeah,
just very very cool hallway. And then as she's there, she kind of hears something startling noises, like some like brief woman kind of screaming.
Yeah.
And then she goes to investigate, and she sees a nurse having sex in the greenest room of your life. And then
the Vine Room, it's called.
Oh, okay, the Vine Room. Yeah. So then they kind of make like an interesting eye contact, and I was like, where is this gonna go? But then Nurse Ratched just leaves, and as she's leaving, then the hallway turns that same green.
We see a lot of these light changes of this like light neon.
Well, what do you think
hunter
that means?
green almost? I don't know. Because there's green throughout. There's green in the motel hallway. There's green on clothing. There's green in like IV drip bottles. I don't know if you saw that, but like somewhere someone was just using an IV, it wouldn't be green, but it's like hinted mint green. So there's this green color throughout, and I don't know exactly. It has to mean something. I hope it means something, but I don't know if it's like something we'll ever know what it. Like.
I know, because then it's like, and then the nurses are in this like kind of turquoise green, and then there's a lot of like, and it's different shades of green too, but it all kind of seems like the same color in the same way. It's like emerald, so it really really sort of pops out. But I kind of felt like when I saw this, that she was triggered by walking into it. So either she was triggered sexually by it, and or she's like, okay, I'm gonna use this, and or both. Like, I'm gonna use this against this person.
Yeah, that was my thinking too. Is every time it turned green, because it did it a couple times in the episode, it was like every time she got a new idea or she figured out a way to move her, mission forward. It felt like almost, It was like when you say you have an idea, you say, oh, the light finally turned on.
Yeah,
the light bulb turned on. It felt like maybe that, but I feel like there has to be more to it, because green is the color of envy. So maybe she's jealous that someone's having sex, but I forget what the other cue was. I don't think it was jealousy related, so I don't know.
Interesting. So then right after this, we see Dr. Hanover with Nurse Bucket, and she's kind of like, listen, there's a woman in the lobby. She's not leaving. She says she has an interview with you. And then he just kind of randomly picks up something and throws it. And he's like, I'll take care of it.
He's frustrated from, this and the hospital drama and then the funding and getting blown off by the governor. And he's clearly borderline alcoholic or abusing drugs or something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure on him. So I got that. But he decides to meet with Ratched. So he says, I don't remember sending you a letter. And he goes, well, and she's basically insulting his nursing staff in this interview.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when Ratched walks into the office, he tells Bucket to leave. And as she's leaving, she like hits Ratched with the brush just subtly enough to where it's like, I don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
That's the sort of thing that makes her character really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like, she's just not straight, cold bitch. She's just like a little fun, like, and kooky. Ugh, yeah. So good.
So they have this interview, and let's take a listen.
We had a saying in the Corps: save one life and you're a hero. Save 100 lives. Well, then you're a nurse.
I must say you're a very impressive woman, Miss Ratched. And clearly passionate. But unfortunately...
May I venture one last query, Doctor? Do you believe the human mind can be cured?
I do. But it's not about belief. It requires no act of faith. I've seen it with my own eyes.
I have not. But I hope you'll believe me when I tell you it is all I want in the world.
So it is really good. I think that it's a long monologue about her nursing skills and, the war, whatever. And
he's impressed by her.
A lot of manipulation here. She's really good at that. You could tell.
She knows what she's doing.
She's just like popping him out.
Yeah. And she's impressed by him, but he knows that he can't afford her. And there's no openings. So he tells her, if something opens up, I'll call you. But until then, unfortunately, I can't hire you. So she says, okay, she understands, and she leaves. And as she's leaving, she steals one of the nurse's purses off the counter. as she heads out of the hospital.
Okay, because I was like, how'd she get that? All I noticed was like just Bucket berating them, berating her nursing staff.
Yep, and while they're being yelled at, she steals one of their purses, and then she's in the car and she checks the purse of the card's name, and then she goes to that nurse's house and she sees outside her husband and daughter leaving for the day, and she says that she's an old friend of the nurse, and that if she could give her a call, that would be great. So she says her name's Arlene Bauer.
Yeah.
And
this is the nurse that she caught having sex too.
Yes.
Which I labeled in my notes as slutty nurse. So yeah, she stole slutty nurse's purse and got her contact information and went to her whole ass house.
Her whole ass house. Saw her whole ass family.
Oh god.
And she basically just tells her husband to call her. She's an old high school friend, and she just wants to catch up.
Yeah. So it being the 1940s, you don't have a cell phone, does. And then so she goes to the hotel manager saying like, hey, listen, this person's going to call me. The manager is listening to something about Edmund, so it's very much in the news. We get established.
Mm-hmm.
After she talks to her, then we find Daddy Corey Stoll, outside. They have some flirty lines together.
Yeah. They flirt a little bit, and then Mildred slides a note under his door that asks him if he's married, and he says, he slides the note back and says, no, I'm not. And then she opens the door, and Daddy Stoll is standing there.
Yeah.
So we think they're going to fuck, but when he comes in and they, get more comfortable in their clothing, she says she's never done this before. I don't know if that means sex or just hooked up with a random guy or whatever. So she says she wants to do some role play, which was like this was a very weird.
This was a bad Grindr hookup.
This was unnecessary in my eyes. This whole scene.
Well, I don't get it because I don't know. Because I am working under the theory that she is triggered by sex because she was like watching the couple kiss. And then catching the slutty nurse, and then now she's in this really weird sexual experience,
So
I think so. And then so she's nervous because she says she's quote unquote never done this before. So she asks him to sit, and then she's like, let's role play. And then she's like, all right, you're the wife and I'm the husband, and we're in a fight. Yeah. And then she goes into this detailed ass
like a whole ass fan fiction.
Oh my god, he wants to have kids, she doesn't, and then she gets pregnant, but they get a divorce, but then he dies, and she leaves the baby on the doorstep. Like all these things. Imagine that with a hookup wanting to role play in the 1940s or whatever. Like,
and he basically doesn't even respond. He just goes over to her other side of the bed and takes off his pants. And, and he's like, "Are we done? Like, what is going on?" And she's like still into playing, and he's like, I'm over this, and he puts his pants up and leaves. And as he's leaving, we see the hotel manager, and she says, Arlene Bauer has a phone call at the desk.
So then we cut to the really cool. I love like cool bars like this. I would go to one, like a very smoky. I assume some pool is being played. Anyways, the slutty nurse comes. And Mildred is already there. She's like, what do you want? And then she basically says that I want your job and that you are going to leave and tell your husband and do all that stuff, or I'm going to tell him that you're fucking somebody at work, basically.
Yeah, so she basically scares her out of the job and tells her to beat it and give me your job. And so the slutty nurse quits. And also, like, tells her to leave town.
And she's like, yeah, you also need to pack up, get movers, and leave, because I'm also crazy. Because
also, sell your home. Like, what?
She gives the nurse, like, a doll for her daughter, too.
Yeah.
Like, this is for your daughter. I think this is just to show us, like, that, obviously she's really manipulative and really powerful and very smart.
Yeah, it's almost a threat.
Yeah.
And so then we cut to Dr. Hanover's house, and Cynthia Nixon comes over and basically tells Dr. Hanover that she thinks it would be great for the governor's re-election campaign if he got behind the funding of this hospital and all the new techniques that Dr. Hanover is trying to do at this hospital. So she says that the governor agrees to help them out, and he'll come for a visit, and they'll go from there.
And we should mention that the governor is played by Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah,
great character actor.
Mm-hmm. Was he Law and Order SVU?
He was Law and Order. He was in that Daredevil. Recently, that's the last thing I saw him in. So,
and then I wrote down what's with the green. But was there another green Q here?
I don't know. It's not.
There must
in my
have been
notes.
because I wrote it.
Yeah.
So then we cut to
Bucket and Dr. Hanover, and then he's saying like, we're gonna get this funding, but they're coming to visit. And Bucket's all excited. So
they're trying to get the hospital in tip-top shape, but Hanover realizes that they're now short-staffed because the girl quit, and another nurse is on vacation. But then at that same moment where they're saying they're short-staffed, and what are they going to do? A fruit basket arrives from Mildred.
A delicious-looking fruit basket.
A delicious and, dare I say, deliberate fruit basket is delivered to him, and he's reminded of her, so he decides to hire her.
Yeah, and then we get this very fast sort of like, she gets a phone call, and then she's in the nurse's uniform, and then she's walking down the hallway, and then the hallway turns that green color again, too. Yep.
And then, Bucket realizes that she was hired, so they have a little tit for tat moment. And then the governor arrives for a tour after Bucket reprimands them all to get the place in shape. She wants to eat a runny egg off the surface. So Hanover, I also noticed when they're walking around, he's telling them about the buildings they want to build and all this other kind of stuff. He says he doesn't want photos of him. Did you find this weird? That had to be something, right?
Yeah, no, it kind of just like suits his energy too, and like it's like, well, you really need to play the game,
what
but
is
he still
hiding?
wants it. What are you hiding in those little shoes of yours?
The tiniest.
But then the reporters also ask about Edmund during this time, and then the governor gets real hyped by being like, "That's not the story here, and you're not going to run it. Like, let's not talk about it." So he's
Edmund's
coming.
still incoming to the facility. So, and then we cut to Mildred as she's getting pills ready for the patients, and we see her pull blood pressure reducing pills from the shelf, and she slips some of them into one of the older priest's medicine, and I guess he goes into shock from this.
He does, and then Bucket comes running out in the middle with her arm. Like, it was a funny run. Did you notice that? Her arms are out. She's like, something's happening to the pastor.
So they run in, and Ratched runs up to him and helps him and puts him on his side and makes him throw the pills up. So she was the one who did it. Basically, she did this to be able to fix it, to be, to seem like she's, saving the day. But Bucket and Hanover quickly catch on and realize that, or think that she did this and she fucked up, because Hanover says no one is prescribed these pills here. So someone, this is a little later on, but basically, Ratched saves the day. The governor sees it. Everyone's there. It seems like a triumphant moment for her. But in the next conversation, Bucket says to Hanover, someone did this. Like, he was in shock from a different pill. So someone gave him the wrong medication. And they automatically assume it was the new girl, Ratched. So I also noticed in the scene, she's leaning down and like helping the priest, and Bucket grabs her to pull her away, and she
she
snaps
said, "Do
back,
not touch me." So
and that was like a moment where I was like, okay, yes, that's the character I like.
Yeah, and that's also what I'm saying about like being triggered by sexuality or being touched as well too. Like, I think, and because she says it in the next scene then as well, because the governor's like, we have to take a photo of this. This was amazing. And then the Dr. Hanover does not again want to be in the photo. So then they put Ratched in there, and so they're in the room with the pastor taking photos, and then the governor goes to put his hand on her side, and she's like, "Please do not touch me."
He puts it more on her ass.
And then Cynthia Nixon's eyes, like lesbian eyes, be like, "Are you a lesbian?"
She's like, "Look at that strong lesbian." So there's another character in this throughout that we kind of sprinkle in and get to know him a little bit. It's called Mr. Salvatore. He's one of the patients. So we see him at the very beginning where he's trying to basically lobby for parole in a mental institution. I don't know what you call that. And Nurse Bucket says, you know, you have to do all of these things, yada, 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 yada.
Yeah.
He wants to get home and see his family again. For whatever reason, he's in this place, but he's mentally ill. We later find out that he's not getting released, and that his brother died, and he wants to be released so he can go see his brother. But his brother died, and his family doesn't want him to be released. So his family doesn't want him, and they're not telling him this, and they're also not going to release him, but he doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
So he has his hope throughout, and he's being, you know, he's being injected with a tranquilizer, and he's being, you know, manipulated throughout. And it gets to a point finally where Mildred finds this all out, and she has a conversation with one of the nurses. So she goes over to him and has this conversation. I think this might be one of my favorite scenes of the episode.
For sure.
So basically she tells him that she was abandoned as well, and he's being abandoned, and she was abandoned with her brother, and it was the only person she had, and then her brother was taken from her, and they were put in separate foster cares and all this other kind of stuff. So she tells him a lot of what's, you know, going on, and she tries to relate to him, and it's a sad scene, and they're crying, and then she tells him, you know, they're lying to you. You're going to be trapped here forever. Your family doesn't want you, and just like tells him all the hard truths that no one's telling him.
Yeah.
And basically tells him to kill himself.
Well, she's like, and she frames it in this way that's like, well, free yourself, you know? And then it just starts, because then I started thinking, I'm like, well, what is her character motivation here? Like, why did she single this guy out on her first day? And it's like, is this what she's going to be doing going forward then too? Like making people kill themselves, or you know what I mean? Or is she there just to fuck around? I don't get it.
I feel like that's part of it. Part of it is like this psychopathic, you know, she just wants to fuck with people, and part of it is like empathy for people who are trapped like she was, or were abandoned like she was. But the main motivation, I think, in this episode is she wants to help Hanover get rid of the body, so she seems like an asset.
Okay.
This is the scene where I felt like Ratched, her storyline is going to be very similar to the House of Cards storyline.
And what is that?
Which is Kevin Spacey's character doesn't get the position he was promised. So out of revenge, he targets the president to try and take his job. And that's what happens. He manipulates and he kills people, and he makes people, you know, run away, and he blackmails people to get to that spot. And I feel like that's what she's doing, is she's trying to destroy people along the way to get to that top spot, which I assume in this case would be running this hospital, or at least becoming head nurse or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was, I felt like, a very similar trajectory, and at least like bullet, you know, story beats as it went. I was like, this is going to be kind of like that. It's an evil, manipulative, psychopathic character who is clearing out the way to get to the top by any means necessary. And I think this is one of those instances where she's doing that, but also, again, it's just to be able to cause the problem and solve the problem at the same time, so that she seems like an asset to Hanover.
Yeah, it's a lot to do in one day. Fuck.
Yeah.
And not for nothing.
She almost killed 2 people in one day.
I know, now she's really good. And not for nothing, the patient, Mr. Salvatore, it's hot. Pretty hot guy.
Well, so that was the other thing. I was like, that's my daddy.
Yeah. I'm like, oh,
Mr.
no,
Salvatore could get it. Yeah, I know.
Definitely.
So basically she says there's a letter opener on Hanover's desk, and he should go in there and use it and kill himself. So she takes him to Hanover's office and puts him in there, shows him the letter opener, then leaves him behind, and he goes into the bathroom and slices his throat with the letter opener.
Oof.
And then Hanover comes in and finds him.
Yeah, because then this is when the screen cuts to 2, and there's a lot kind of going on at once. And so then Hanover is looking for Ratched at the moment.
Yeah, and then he finds Salvatore.
Yeah.
And she comes in, and he's freaking out. And she comes in, and she's like, I'll solve this. I'll fix this. Don't you worry. She's like, you're stressed out. You're in shock. She's like trying to make, she's trying to push this off as not her fault by any means necessary, and at the same time fix it for them. She's like, your nursing staff, I think she says something about Bucket, where he does.
Yeah.
She's like, don't worry, you go out there and deal with the governor, make sure while he's giving his goodbye speech and he's about to leave. She's like, you go deal with that, you go deal with him, I'll get rid of the body, and we don't have to talk about it. So she does. So she cleans up the mess and she puts Salvatore into this big gold box. I don't know. And she cleans it up, throws him in there, and she's leaving with the body. When Nurse Bucket shows up and is like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm cleaning the towels for Dr. Hanover." Bucket doesn't believe it. She walks through the thing and yada yada yada. So basically, I think she knew that Hanover and Bucket knew what she did with the pills, so she went a step further to seem even more, useful to the situation. So after Ratched gets rid of the body and Bucket's suspicious of her, we cut to Ratched back at the motel and we see Edmund being escorted up the coast to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So Edmund finally arrives at the hospital. They tell him he's going to be there for 120 days or until Hanover deems him fit to stand trial. So he'll be there for psychological evaluation and medicine and therapy and all that kind of stuff. When he gets to the cell, we then cut to Ratched arriving at the hospital, and she goes down into this wine cellar where they're keeping him in these jail cells, and she walks up to the cell, and he recognizes her. And we quickly realize that this is her brother she was talking about with Mr. Salvatore earlier.
Did you know that it was her brother right away?
I did not piece these two things together until this moment.
Because I was like, I didn't until I did. I was like,
yeah,
is this another weird? Because I'm still on this like, okay, what's like sexually triggering you thing here? And so then I was like, is it him all along? I don't know. So then I was like, oh, okay, but I was like, oh, it's her brother.
Yeah, so this was the moment I was like 100% this is her brother, and that made sense, and I love that twist ending. I did not think about it. But basically she was trying to get into this hospital so she could be reunited with her brother.
I know.
And they're very happy to see each other, and we just leave the episode with them holding hands on either side of these jail cell bars, and he says, "I don't want to die," and she says, "I'm not going to let them kill you." So that's where we end it.
Yep.
Now we know her journey, which makes a lot of sense. I like the motivation here. I like how the whole episode was just her getting into the hospital so that she can be there with her brother.
And proving herself twice and killing somebody
twice
at the same time. So
even after almost being caught literally 10 minutes prior. She's like, okay, plan B.
All right. She's like, no, well, now I got to kill somebody.
Now I got to get this man to kill himself. And that's the pilot. I will say, basically overall the way that it was shot and directed, and I love that. I think there were some moments that could have been cut, some expositional moments, some other scenes. But I'm excited to watch more. There's only 8 episodes, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I remember. So this is like roughly the second time that I've watched this, and I was a little bit more of a slog than the first time I ever watched it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Because it came out.
I don't
want to
say it's bad.
And I was like, oh yeah, cool. I'm in an atmosphere. And then this time I was like, all right.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's bad or boring in any way. It's just, I don't know. There's something lacking. I don't know what it is. But overall, I'm like not dreading watching it. You know what I mean? Like I think I'll enjoy the ride, but I don't think I'm, super, excited to go on it. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited to see what happens and where this is going to go and how it is. But we'll see how it fares. Overall, I liked it though.
What do you think the Ryan Murphy moment was?
I think there's a few.